Throughout its many shows and spin-offs, 90 Day Fiancé has introduced many unique personalities to the world. Some of the couples featured in the 90 Day franchise have established a balance between being away from home and working in a foreign country. Others, however, have struggled to detach themselves from unbreakable bonds or by earning their own income. Many have attempted to break away from their families. Alas, at the end of the day, this is always easier said than done. It can be a pretty difficult task to leave one's own country, especially if a tight-knit family is involved. Agreeably so, many 90 Day Fiancé stars that moved from one country to another end up experiencing some mental trauma from not having the same level of closeness that they used to have with their families. This can carry harsh impacts into their intimate relationships, a 90 Day Fiancé trademark that sometimes results in engagements being planned around those people. For example, Elizabeth Pothist and fiancé Andrei Kastravit's relationship can't just exist without her parents, sisters, and brothers having input. Another form of attachment is something most viewers can relate to: receiving financial support from family members. While not everyone is pleased to do this, some 90 Day Fiancé alumni have made a hobby out of it. Of course, there are also others who are scratching at every money-making opportunity and still fall short. That said, one feasible way to support themselves, their partners, and their children is to head to the bank of mom and dad. Regardless of motive, applying for a family-sponsored loan has been one of 90 Day Fiancé's defining qualities in couples. Colt Johnson. There are several mama's boys in the world, and then there's Colt Johnson, who was introduced to the 90 Day Fiancé fans in 2018. Right off the bat, Colt's mom, Debbie, was a major chess piece to the show whenever Colt was around. They made sure the audience and production crew knew that as well. In fact, she likely showed up more on the show than Colt's Brazilian then-partner Larissa. Though Larissa was known for her stern attitude, she made a humorous remark when Colt announced a plan for divorce. Not quite the happy news she wanted, Larissa suggested that, since they didn't work out, Colt and Debbie should have relations with each other. While Colt did muster up his own job, he would still manage to co-own a 2003 Kia Spectra before upgrading to a nicer model Mazda. Purchased alongside Debbie, of course. She doesn't work, as she's retired, so she and Colt's idea of being the oddest mom-son duo of the entire franchise is strictly powered by emotional support. During his introduction in 90 Day Fiancé, Colt even declared, "Amant's first best friend should be his mother." Other than his cat, Debbie has always been Colt's anchor. Any woman who plans on associating themselves with Colt needs to know that, if you want something serious from him, that mama bird will be cast as the third wheel. Andrei Kastravit. Andrei is one of the most intimidating partners from the 90 Day Fiancé franchise. He's also one of the shadiest, especially with money. Married to Elizabeth, or Libby as he calls her, Andrei believed that the only man that needs and deserves a role in her life is him. However, as was the case with Colt and his mother, family was only a stone's throw away. After all, Libby worked for her dad Chuck at his property management firm, CMP Capital Investments. At first, Chuck wasn't a part of the financial picture. And yet, Elizabeth's dad would eventually be eyed as an investment by her man from Moldova. Considering Andrei's past with embezzlement charges in a locally corrupt police force, dirty money followed him everywhere. When he moved to the States a few years ago, he was faced with building a family of his own with Elizabeth. Alas, he didn't inspire a role model type behavior. During the RV trip between the Pottists and himself, Andrei used this as the start to his journey in getting Chuck to offer his hand in financial marriage. Andrei himself was struggling to find work, even though he rejected an offer from Chuck to come work for him. Alas, Andrei wanted some money without logging in the work hours. Thus, he went ahead and passed an unthinkable plan along to his in-laws. A request of $100,000 from Chuck himself. It was meant as a business proposal for Andrei's startup in flipping houses, but one has to wonder how much he's actually taken advantage of Elizabeth's family's financial status. Asuelu. As a mother whose son is heading off to another country for an undetermined amount of time, Lucina has been one of the most unsupportive. Asuelu, the young Samoan partner to Kalani Fagata, had certain cultural beliefs that he grew up with. Unfortunately, those conflicted with Kalani's morals. Overall, this didn't make Asuelu's mom, Lucina, very happy. On 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, Lucina sat down to discuss her son's commitment to their Samoa circle with Kalani, the mother of her grandkids, right next to them. Lucina didn't like Kalani from the start, but as things got heated around a campfire, Lucina pulled the rug out from underneath her. After admitting that Asuelu had been burdened with the responsibility of financially providing for his parents and one sister, Lucina begged and pleaded for even more money anyway. It was at this time that her own son started crying and owning up to the fact that he needs to provide for Kalani and her kids before his own blood. Even then, Lucina still didn't understand and got defensive, which further demonstrated how reliant she is on Asuelu to keep a family of 7 afloat. Jihoon Lee. 90 Day Fiancé. The Other Way star Jihoon had chosen one of the franchise's most delusional cast members of all time, Devon Clegg, to call his wife. Thankfully, the South Korean man came from a humble upbringing due to his parents, Hongju and Young. Despite all that Devon may have put their son through in his hometown and in Las Vegas, Hongju and Young have been the most well-tempered and catering of any parents featured on the show. But Jihoon, who was juggling to find jobs most of the time, found himself at the will of his parents' fortune. It seemed like whichever belongings Jihoon had, it was because of Hongju and Young. They even went as far as funding a return trip to America for Devon when she wanted to leave after a fight at dinner upset her. Ronald Smith. Last but not least, there's Ronald Smith. On 90 Day Fiancé, The Other Way, Ronald was going through rehab right before the arrival of Tiffany and their son, Daniel. Ronald is often painted with a disturbing brush because of how he treats even his closest allies. If a psychology lecture was centered around him, his behavior may boil down to how he relies on people, such as his mother, Rhea, to do things for him. Like Andrei, Ronald isn't clean in the eyes of the legal community. Not only did he have to get help from a wellness center in South Africa, but he also stole from his mother and was later convicted of burglary. If that doesn't make him needy of his mother and her possessions, then he certainly has his hands tied with Tiffany's folks, who co-sponsor his K-1 visa to remain in the States. As the saying goes, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Colt is in his own ballgame, while Ronald blatantly disrespects his loved ones. Having a dependent can be rewarding in a sense, but it can drain the ever-loving life out of someone as well. Everything should be done in moderation, and over-relying on someone else, whether for your sanity or to better your financial situation, will forever have a special place in 90 Day Fiancé's heart.